Hello FlossTube, my name is Leann and I am leann.stitches here on YouTube and on Instagram. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook as Forbidden Fiber Co. Today is Sunday, July 13th, and this is my 47th FlossTube. It has been 2 weeks since my last video, so I'm super excited to be back. Trying real hard to be a little more consistent this year, just because once you get behind, it's really hard to catch up. I am in the middle of doing Christmas in July, and so I have lots of progress on my Christmas stitches to show you, plus a couple of other things. I have some knitting updates and I have some shop updates, and I think that's it. So grab a drink, your project, whatever it is you like to do while you watch FlossTube, and let's get started. The first project I have to show you, as always, is Marvel Heroes. I will post a picture up there of what it is going to look like when it's done. It is charted by Popular Cross Stitch from Etsy, which is no longer open, but I'm sure there are other stores who have charted this artwork. Yeah, I will pop a picture up as where I was last week. I scrolled up a little bit just because I noticed last week I was getting too far down to show all the project progress and still be able to talk over it. So there might be a little bit of a difference between my last week's picture and this week's video. And wow, my brain just completely stopped working. Anyway, I'm stitching 2 over 1 full cross on a 16 count easy guide Aida. And I am stitching using a kind of a modified typewriter method. I got the idea from Anne, the Max Color Stitcher, where I am doing top to bottom, left to right on on a 10 by 10 block, but I'm doing 2 rows in a row. So I have gotten 797 stitches done in the last 2 weeks. And I don't remember exactly where I started, but I know I worked on his star a little bit, on Captain America's star, because that was super heavy confetti. And I was really only doing my minimum stitches per day, which I should tell you, I do 50 stitches a day on this project. My goal is to finish it by the end of next year to give to my husband. Most days I do more like 60 or 75, but when I get into heavy confetti areas like this dude or this star, I literally was doing like 51 stitches, 52 stitches. Just it was 1 or 2 stitches and then a color change. So it was taking a while. And then last week was super busy, so I didn't have a lot of time to stitch. And to make sure I got a chance to stitch on all 3 of my daily projects, I really just came in and I did a lot of her hair, because it's just block stitching. So I could grab a strand, and I do like 1 meter length, and I could grab a strand, and since I do a loop start, I can get 63 to 70 stitches in, just going back and forth in her hair. So I did quite a lot of that last week just to get my daily stitches in. So that's why you see a lot of her hair done, but then there's holes in here and stuff like that. So yeah, it's coming along. I officially have 72,727 stitches out of 105,200 total, and I'm at 69.13%. So 70% is right around the corner. It's possible I will even have it the next video, fingers crossed. Okay, so my last video was on June 29th. So I still had 1 more day before I started my Christmas in July stitching, and I figured out when I filmed last time that I had 1 project that I had left off of my summer projects wheel. So I decided just to go ahead and do that on June 30th. And so I could get some progress in it, because it's one of those projects that I started and then never really did anything on. Okay, I don't have a picture, so I'm just gonna post it right there. This is Around the World in 80 Days by Aury TM. It's one of her fantasy like Quakers, where she takes like a fairy tale or a story and makes a Quaker out of it. It's super fun. I am stitching 1 over 1 on 28 count, and this is, I want to say it's Lullaby, 28 count Lugana, dyed by Forbidden Fiber Co. And that is, I did get it oriented right, so that's cool. And I finished out the inner border of this motif, and I did the crown I only worked on it for 30 minutes, so I got a good amount done. I started this with Sarah from Memphis, Sarah E. A few years ago, it feels like. We sat at market the very first year I went to market, or second year, and we converted all of the DMC into Forbidden Fiber Co. flosses. So, oh wow, that's really messy and hard to look at, but there it is, all the colors. It's such a beautiful palette. There's so many colors. It'll be interesting to see when I get a little more progress on it, because literally so far I have only used this color. Okay, so starting on July 1st, after I stitched on Around the World, I started my Christmas in July. And what I did was I have a big bag. This bag is by Garon Toten Bags, or Garon Stitchery. And it has all of my Christmas projects in it. There are 5 of them, and I just realized that I think I left one in my stitchy spot, so I'm gonna have to go get that when it's time. But and I put all these projects on a wheel, and I spin. So there's 5 projects total, so I can make it through a wheel in less than a week. And I stitch for 30 minutes or 100 stitches. I only have one full coverage piece or pattern keeper piece in here, so that's the only one I do 100 stitches on. Every other one I just do for 30 minutes ish. I'll as I go through them, I'll tell you kind of what I did. So let's just start. I'm just going to go in no particular order other than the order that I can take them out of the bag easiest. Okay, so the first piece I have to show you is Deck the Halls. It is by, I should have looked that up. It is by Crow's Feet Stitching on Etsy. And I started this a few years ago with a group on Instagram. I honestly couldn't tell you who was in that group anymore because we haven't chatted aside from that time when we started it. We chatted for like the month of December as people were stitching, and then it kind of just went away. And I really want to finish this project this year. I'm getting close, but there's always a lot more stitching. It's kind of deceptive. Like there's a lot more stitching than it looks like. I converted it into Forbidden Fiber Co. flosses from DMC. So there's a color palette. It's very primitive color palette, which I kind of am digging. It's different than a lot of the things that I stitch. So, and I am stitching 1/1 on a 36 count Winter Sparrow by Forbidden Fiber Co. And there's where I'm at. And I have been focusing on this up here. I have only stitched on this once. I was actually supposed to stitch on this last night. It's the last project in this wheel spin, but I had limited stitching time last night, and so I opted to just do my marble stitches and then stitch on my main piece. So I will stitch on this tonight if I get this video edited and posted in time to have any stitching time. Sometimes I don't. So there's that. The next piece I have to show you is Kringles by Little House Needleworks. And I started this with Sarah from Memphis, Sarah E. And originally we were going to start it, and then when we finished another project we were working on, we were going to break this up into 12 parts and try to finish it within a year. And then we got stitching on other things, and then Sarah bought a store, and now her stitching time is minimum because she's a new business owner, and that's kind of how it goes. So I figured I would just bring it out for Christmas in July and see what I could get done. This is another one that I converted into Forbidden Fiber Co. floss because why not? I think my floss is kind of pretty, so I should use it. So some of this is DMC and some of it is Forbidden Fiber Co. floss, but there is the color palette. And here is my progress. I had this room finished already before I started, and I started working on the room next to it, and I got this present done and the bicycle done. And then I'm just gonna keep working on this room while I can. I worked on this 2 times, so about an hour total. I think one session I was able to get most of this toy box done, or present, whatever it is. And then the second time I worked on it, I got this red ribbon and then the bicycle done. This is one of those ones that I have to force myself to stop working on because I want to see how many of those little details I can get in. Oh, I'm stitching this 2/2 on a 36 count Granite by Forbidden Fiber Co. The next piece I worked on is Twas the Night Before Christmas. Artwork is by Jena, Della, Grottaglia, Maldonado. Say that 10 times fast, and maybe I said it correctly. Anyway, it's charted by Heaven and Earth Designs, and I stitched on this 2 times. This is my 1 full coverage piece that I try to stitch 100 stitches, but I actually did a little bit more than that both times I worked on it, and I got 262 stitches done, and that's where I'm at. And I'm just filling in, again, using the typewriter method, top to bottom, left to right in a 10 by 10 square, and I worked in a lot of these reds. So when I was working, picking stitches from this area right in there, and then it's a lot of these reds, so I was just pulling them down, trying to somewhat color complete by page. So I guess I'm really modifying that typewriter method here, top to bottom, left to right, to the end of the page, and color completing by page, because why not? When you have a piece that is 389,325 stitches, you got to keep it interesting. So I did 262 stitches in 2 sessions, and I now have 1,335 stitches done for 0.34%. Then, oh, I'm stitching that 2/1/10 stitch on a 25 count, I want to say, easy guide. The next piece I have to show you is Royal Holiday by Mirabilia. This was the first Mirabilia I ever started, and I've finished a couple since starting this one, and now I really want to finish this one. And the problem is that she's absolutely massive, but also very fun to stitch. I am stitching her 2/2 on a 32 count fabric. I dyed at Forbidden Fiber Co., but so far I have not been able to repeat it. I love the contrast of the gold and the green and the red and the green though, so that's why I went with the dark green. I have been working up in here and down in here, working on this gold section. I did a little bit of the white and gray in here, and then I've really just been focusing on all the Kringles and the browns and golds in this section because I'm trying to work my way up to her head, and then I plan to work my way back down and do her red coat. I stitched on her 2 times, and one of those times was on a weekend where we didn't really have any plans, and so I spent 2 hours stitching on her that first time because it had just been so long since I worked on her, and I really got into it. So she got 2 hours, and the second time she got 45 minutes. Okay, so the project that I forgot to show you last time when I was showing you all of my Christmas projects was Frosty by Mill Hill Buttons and Beads. And I am making this for my mother-in-law for Christmas. So I thought it was a good idea to put it in my Christmas in July wheel so I could make some progress. And I'm using all the kitted supplies. That's the word I'm looking for. I'm trying to find something to put behind this. So that's where I got to. And I'm really just completing it top to bottom. So I worked in this top border, and I did the snowflakes, and I added some white beads, and I worked in this light blue some more, and then I did a lot of this dark blue, which is basically just background. And then the next thing I'm going to work on right here is his hat. I worked on this technically 3 times. The first time I worked on it was a weekend, and I had extra stitching time, so I worked on it for 2 hours. And then the second time I worked on it for 45 minutes because I was working on this blue and I just wanted to finish my thread. And then we went to Magic Springs on Friday, which is a theme park and water park over in Hot Springs, Arkansas, which is about 3 hours away from us. And I mostly bring knitting when I travel, but since I am doing Christmas in July, And I was like, well, we spent the night, we drove to the water park in the morning. We spent the day at the water park, and then we got a hotel room in Little Rock that night. And I was like, well, maybe I'll want to stitch instead of knit in the hotel room, because I knit the entire way there. I'll talk more about that later. And I was like, well, maybe I'll want to cross stitch. And this is a really self-contained, easy kit to travel with. So we got back to the hotel room and I was zonked, but I was determined to put some stitches in. So I just did one length of that blue thread, but hotel lighting is really terrible. And even though I had a spotlight over the bed, it just wasn't happening. So I put it away after that one strand and went to bed. So yeah, that is Frosty. The last project I have to show you is Sleigh Ride by Praiseworthy Stitches. And I started this last December 1st with Sarah from Memphis Sarah E and Zan from Crazy Band Lady Stitches. We're using the hashtag Sleigh Ride Slouts. We're using the hashtag Sleigh Ride Sal. I don't think Zan ever started it though. She's been doing some antiquing and making and doing booths in local antique malls and stuff like that. So I don't think she's been stitching much lately, but we split it up into 13 pieces. So one was going to be last December, and then the other 12 were going to be for January through December for a December finish. And I got through January and I got almost all the way through February. And then that was when market happened and I stopped stitching for like 6 weeks. And then when I got back into my stitching, I was supposed to be stitching on this 30 minutes a day, and I was just finding 4 projects a day, which would be Marvel, this, then my seasonal stitching, and then my main focus piece for the night. I was just finding it a little overwhelming as I was just getting back into stitching. So I decided to put it away for a little while, and that's kind of how the Christmas in July idea was born, is it would give me some time to catch up on this. So after I finish my Marvel and my wheel spin, my 30 minutes or 100 stitches, I work on this. And over the course of the last 2 weeks, I worked on it for a total of 18.5 hours-ish. I don't set a timer or anything. And that is where I've gotten to. I have gotten so much progress on this, and I am having so much fun stitching it. So the first thing I did, let's see if I can do this. The first thing I did was I finished out this section over here. That was February's section. And I had to go back and do this snow under here and the things that make the sled go. Words are hard. So that was the first part I did. That was the rest of February's part. And then March's part was all of this in here. So basically from this, no, it started here with that girl riding that sled, and then it came all the way down in these snowmen and this tree. So I did that part next, and then that was March's part, and then April's part was this house and some of the snow. I had already done these 2 people with January's part. So I just finished this house last night, and that's why I skipped working on Deck the Halls, because I really wanted to get that roof in, because if you'll see, this is all satin stitch with sparkle, and it's supposed to be Kringles with a Kringles blending filament with some Weeks Dye Works, but I really was not enjoying the blending filament on these words. If you remember, or you want to go back to one of my videos, I'm pretty much sure I called it the devil. So I switched for this red, and then this white, I switched to Petite Entice, a Silk Lame, because it's a little bit nicer to stitch with, although this one is very splitty, so it's not that great to stitch with, but it's still better than the blending filament. Anyway, I was really anxious to get to that satin stitching, because that's the entire reason why Sarah and I fell in love with this and talked to Zan into doing it with us, is because some of the houses even have satin stitching on them. You can kind of see in here I don't know if you can see it very well on camera, but all this and all this, it's almost like a log home. It's satin stitching. And when we saw the model at market, it was just stunning. And so we decided we were going to stitch it. We were going to do the DMC conversion, but we were going to do the fancy flosses for any of those colors with the satin stitches because it was just so striking. And then I decided, why am I going to use DMC? I've got all of this Forbidden Fiber Co. floss left over from model stitches in my stash. So I've been converting anything that's not the original called for fancy floss into Forbidden Fiber Co. So like this blue, that is the original fancy floss. It's a Gentle Arts colorway, but a tropical ocean, I want to say. But then like all of this red and green and black and the brown of the tree, all of that is Forbidden Fiber Co. floss. I think the red doors are Raven, the red doors are Caboose, which was from our Holiday Express Advent in 2022. And the dark red is Dark Cherry. The black on the windows is Raven. The yellow in this window is Loquacious, which is from our Bridgerton collection. And then the brown on here and the weather, the veins in the window, what are those called? The panes. Is that what it's called? That is Wookie, and so is this tree over here. A lot of the black is Nevermore. So yeah. It's just been really fun, and I honestly, like, I thought I would dread stitching it after how much trouble I had stitching it when I was trying to do it 30 minutes a day, and I have been anxious to get to this piece every single night this month. So yeah, I'm hoping I can catch up and actually get through July's section, and then I don't know if I'll go back to stitching it 30 minutes a day or if I'm just going to do the same thing in December and try to do a Christmas in December stitching and finish it up. We'll see. But I'm stitching it 1/2 on a 36 count Silent Night by Forbidden Fiber Co. And there was something else I was going to say. Oh, my next piece that I'm working on is I already started the snow here. There's another tree here and a snowman next to the tree. And then I'm going to go all the way up, and there's a couple more people and another lamp post right here. And then there's another house right here. But so I'm going to stop at the lamp post, and there's like a little reindeer. So that's my next piece. And it's been taking me 4 to 5 days to finish a section. So we'll see. I'm hoping that means I can have it done in 4 to 5 days. And then if I can keep up that pace, I can definitely finish through July's section by the end of July. Fingers crossed. So that's the end of my cross stitching, right? Yes, I have one more thing to talk about, but I'm going to put this away first. Okay, so I do not have any acquisitions to talk about. However, I did just see the Bella Filipinas 10th anniversary mermaid riding that seahorse. I might have to get that. The problem is that the pattern is $40, and while the artwork is stunning, and I have no doubt that they earned every single penny of that $40, I have a budget. And $40 for a pattern, and then it's $45 for the bead pack, and then $25 for the specialty flosses and everything. Yeah, I'm probably gonna get it. I just need to find a day where I need a treat and I'll probably get it. But yeah, so no acquisitions. However, there is a pattern that I have been eyeing for quite a few months, and I will put it up here. It's a pattern on Etsy. I can't think of the name of the shop, but I'll write it here. And it's just called Autumn Bookshop. And in case you haven't noticed, I kind of like books. And so I am going to start it for my birthday, which is September 5th. And I want to invite you to stitch on something bookish with me for my birthday. I don't have a hashtag yet. If you can think of any ideas, I thought about calling it like Leann's Book Day Sal or something like that. Let me know what you think. But yes, please stitch on something bookish with me on September 5th. That's really all I have for cross stitch. I do have a knitting update to show you, and I have some shop news, and I completely forgot to prep some reading to talk about because I have been in a major reading slump. So I do have a couple of books I can tell you about, really. Yeah, a couple of books I can tell you about, but that's really it. So let's get to the knitting. Okay, so first up is the only project I have to show you today is my Comfort Fade Cardi by Aury. And this is gonna be a really hard one to show, but I promised the last time that I filmed that I would have the shawl collar completely bound off. And I do. Let's see if I can get the whole thing. This is really awkward to show. So I finished the shawl collar on the drive out to Magic Springs Friday. And then I wasn't feeling super good on the way home. I think I had too much sun. So I didn't knit on the way home, but when I got home, I spent the day in bed resting and knitting. And so I have knit this much of the first sleeve, and I just finished the transition to the last color. And I'm not sure, it says knit to 15.5 inches, and I haven't measured yet, so I don't know how many rounds I have. And then there is a very thick garter stitch called cuff where you fade through all the colors again. So that's where I am. It's looking pretty good. I really need to step it up though and finish this because this is supposed to go out with a trunk show by the end of this week. And the sleeves don't really take me that long. I am knitting them inside out so that I don't have to purl, which purling doesn't bother me, but I am a faster knitter than purler. So since speed is the name of the game right now. But I was watching the Knitting Traditions podcast. She's from Norway, and she is a super speedy knitter, and she knits her sleeves on these teeny tiny circulars. And I have always said, no, I can't do that. My hands are pretty big. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that. Well, once I started watching her, I thought, well, let me try it because I really don't like magic loop. And I tried it and I fell in love with it. And it is a little awkward. My hands are a little big because this is how small the needle is. So it's a little bit awkward. I can't knit quite as fast as I would with a regular size needle, but it makes sleeves go so much faster, better than DPNs, better than magic loop. Because you just knit around and around and around. It's the best. So I think I can get them done as long as I devote enough time to it. I have some doctor's appointments that I'm sure I'll be waiting forever at, and we'll have some knitting time that I'll be able to finish it. And I am knitting this on size 5s, I think. Yeah, and these are my cute little hedgehog end stoppers, needle tip protectors. I don't know. We have them in the shop though. They're super cute. And that's really it for knitting. Oh, what's that? Must be a knot or something in the thread. Anyway, I'm knitting it using 4 of the 5 colors in the Winter Court collection that is currently in the shop, inspired by A Court of Thorns and Roses. And you can tell I'm really losing focus. So yeah, that is my knitting update. And then reading wise, like I said, I've been in a slump after I finished the Throne of Glass dual read. I did that binge reading of all those romance novels that I've already read them. And then I just kind of stopped reading and I started watching. I binged through all of the Jurassic Park movies because the new one is out in the theater and I really, really, really want to go see it. And I thought about seeing if my husband would go see it with me tonight, but we have a new movie theater that reopened in our town and they do $5 Tuesdays. So I think I might try to convince him to go watch it on Tuesday instead and save 50% because, you know. And then after that, we're doing the Wednesday stitch along at work. And so I've been writing emails to go with each pattern piece. I'm going to release pattern piece number 3 tomorrow. And I was like, oh, I should rewatch Wednesday. So now I have like 1 more episode to go. So I've been watching Wednesday. And so I haven't been listening to anything at work. My brain has just been too jumbled. And I started reading 2 weeks ago, I think just before I filmed, I started reading The Trial of the Sun Queen. And it was highly recommended in my fantasy book groups and all of that as just like this amazing series. And I got through the first like 6% and then I put it away for a long time. And I was like, well, I don't have anything else to read and everybody says it's so good. So I started it and it was really It was giving me Throne of Glass vibes, and I was like, I don't want to read another book just like Throne of Glass, where she had been rescued or kidnapped out of prison, where she'd been her whole life, and she got thrown into these games to become the next Sun Queen, and she was going to have to bond to the Sun King, and it just, I don't know. So I kind of half paid attention to it while I read, but near the end of the book it got better, but then it got worse because there were a lot of plot holes where like she didn't know why she was in prison. She didn't know why they wanted her in the trials, but then all of a sudden she had this secret and she couldn't let the secret get out. And it's like, where was the secret for the first 200 pages? It just was really weird. It read more like YA than new adult, I guess is what it was supposed to be. And I don't know, but it was interesting enough. I gave it 3 stars. It was interesting enough for me to read the next novel in the book, and the next novel in the series. And that was Fate of the, I don't know, I'll put it up there. So I read that one, and I read that one a little bit faster actually, and it was better. I can't remember exactly what to tell you what happened because I am now on book number 4 and I don't remember, I couldn't tell you what happened in between. You know, I could remember what happened in the first one, but in between the second and third one, I don't know. But so I've also read the third one. I finished that one last night. And again, the third one was way better than even the second one. And so now it turns out she is heir to a lost queendom, and she is fighting against all of these other kings. She finds her mate, who is supposed to be her enemy. So you've got a little enemies to lovers in there, but it's total slow burn, which I love me some slow burn because it really gives you time to develop characters. So I think that's kind of where it got me in the second book, was that slow burn. And now I'm in book 4 where she is trying to bring it all together because I'm pretty sure it's the last book in the series. So that's what I've been reading. Shop updates. We are still doing our pre-order for Advents. However, we are just over, we're probably at about 60% capacity now for our 25-day Advent. We have cross-stitch version and yarn. Yarn, we're about 50%. So if you want to pre-order one of those, if you've been wanting one, make sure to grab yours. We also have the 12 days of Dragon Desolation, which is our Hobbit-inspired 12-day Advent box, which is kind of a 12 days of Christmas. It's meant to start after Christmas and go through January 6th. So those are up for sale. Our shop update this Friday was How to Train Your Dragon, inspired by How to Train Your Dragon. And there's 2 colors of yarn. I'll post a picture here. I did a project bag. I did 2 colors of yarn. That dragnet shawl that I did not tell you about yet, I'm going to include the pattern in that kit, or you can buy the yarn separate. You can buy the project bag separate. The pattern is not available separately yet. And then we also have a cross stitch kit, which with a pattern that I designed. It has 10 colors of floss in it, which is a little bit more than we usually do, but I couldn't narrow it down any more than that for this particular pattern that I'm really, really in love with. The shawl, let me circle back to knitting for a second. My mom came home from her trip to California to see my brother, and she had no knitting. And I said, here, Mom, here's a shawl that I started. And so she finished it, and it's blocking right now, which is why I couldn't bring it to the video to show you. But yeah. And then if you are anywhere near the Billings, Montana area, I'm pretty sure it's Billings, anywhere near Yarn Bar, we are doing a trunk show with them. I think it starts the first week of August-ish, and it's going to be all fantasy book related. So all of our winter court, spring court, summer court yarns inspired by A Court of Thorns and Roses, and all of our Empyrean collection inspired by Fourth Wing, plus 2 brand new Empyrean inspired colorways that have never been seen before. Those are all going to Yarn Bar. I think they're going to do the trunk show for 2 weeks. We're also sending project bags and some cross-stitch kits for our Empyrean Sal. And then lastly, August 1st is the start of the Great Tennessee Yarn Tour, and we are a stop on the tour this year. So if you are anywhere near the Tennessee area and you want to see some fun yarn shops, check out the Great Tennessee Yarn Tour. We're going to have extended hours for the month of August. We're going to be open until 8 o'clock on Friday nights, And then we will be open every Saturday in August from 10 to 4, which typically we are only open the first Saturday of the month from 1 to 4 for our stitch-in. But we're going to do extended hours for August, and we're going to do a couple of fun things. Like August 1st is a Friday night, so we're going to have a kickoff party. And then I want to say the 15th, which is a Friday night, Felicia and I are going to have some sort of dyeing competition. I haven't figured out all of the details yet, but basically somehow whoever is in the studio will choose colors, and we are going to have to both create a colorway, and we'll dye it all while you're standing there, and we'll rinse it and we'll show you, and you guys get to decide who wins. And basically the yarn will be available to shop for the rest of the tour. Yeah, that is pretty much everything I have to tell you. That was a lot more than I intended. I'm at 44 minutes, but I know I had a whole lot of mess up time in there that I'm going to be editing out. But I really didn't think I'd talk more than 20 minutes. Wow. Okay. That is all I have to show you for today. I hope you are having a wonderful weekend and you have a great week with lots of time to stitch and relax and enjoy life. Bye.